All right, today we are going to have an English class. We're going to read a short story called The World of Glass. So what we're going to do is, this is for intermediate to advanced level people, but if you are not intermediate or advanced, don't worry. As we read the story, we will explain very carefully. We will review all of the information that we see in the story in simpler terms. So even if you don't have a large vocabulary, it should be easy for you to understand the idea of the story. As usual, we will find some words, we will pick out some words that we can practice, some words and phrases that will be useful to you in your daily life. So if you're watching this live with me, and there's a word that you have a question about, or there's a phrase, then please, I encourage you to write your question in the chat, and I will try to read it and answer your question. Sometimes I'm so focused I don't see the comments, but I will try. I will look for your comments. Okay, so let's see. Let's get started with our story, The World of Glass. Just a second, let me see where it starts here. All right. Bill Cranford, we're off to a good start here. Bill Cranford was just married, and he just left the wedding ceremony. A very unusual wedding ceremony. So this fellow Bill is getting married, and now he is leaving the wedding. And for some reason, I think we'll probably find out, we'll probably discover pretty soon, it's a very strange wedding. Let's see. The groom looked unhappy. Now, during the wedding, a woman is called the bride, and a man is called the groom. So when they say the groom looked unhappy, they're talking about the man who is getting married, the future husband. So the groom looked unhappy. The bride looked unhappy. So also the woman looked unhappy too. Okay, and the guests were the most perplexed people on earth. Now this word perplexed is another word for confused, and we're going to practice it when we finish the paragraph. So the guests looked very confused, and the groom looked unhappy, and the bride looked unhappy. What's happening at this wedding? The reason was simple, frighteningly simple. Bill would permit no mirrors in the hall, no glass of any kind. No reflectors. Yet this was only consistent with Bill's queer behavior for weeks preceding the marriage. The word queer means strange. So in this sentence, when they say his queer behavior, that means his strange behavior. He has been acting strange for several weeks, for a couple of months before the wedding. People have warned Joan that Bill was mad. Okay, and you probably know this word mad means angry, but it can also mean crazy. And here I think they mean crazy. Bill was crazy. People tried to warn Joan, the bride, that Bill was crazy. He was mad. What else would you call a man who insisted on sitting in dark corners where there were no mirrors or reflectors of any kind? Okay, so they're saying he's crazy, and he refuses to be anywhere near a mirror. And he likes to sit in the dark, so obviously he's crazy. Who refused glass tumblers or highly polished eating utensils? A tumbler is a type of glass for drinking. And he refused to drink with any glass cups because he was afraid he could see his reflection in the cups. And also any silver, so any silver eating utensils. Eating utensils are forks and knives and spoons. Those are eating utensils. Who wouldn't drive with the windows of any kind in his car. So he refused to have windows even in his car because he was afraid they would make a reflection. No rear vision mirror, no windshield, no gleaming metal of any kind. So no rear view mirror. The rear view mirror is that mirror when you're driving. It's the mirror in the front. The rear. Here they're saying rear vision mirror. I don't know. This thing was written in the 50s. Maybe that's what they said back then. But now we call it a rear view mirror. That's the mirror that's here. No windshield. That's the front glass of the car. The windshield. What else do they mention here? In the past stories, we've seen this word gleaming before, and gleaming means reflecting light. And it says no gleaming metal of any kind, so no shiny metal. As the bridal couple stepped into Bill's absurd-looking automobile, absurd means stupid or crazy or illogical, something like that. We're going to practice that word, actually, in a few minutes. Absurd. So they stepped into his absurd-looking car. His car looked crazy. It looked stupid. Why? Because there were no windows in it, and there were no mirrors. He took off the mirrors, too. So his car looked ridiculous. As the bridal couple stepped into Bill's absurd-looking automobile, people knew they were hoping in vain that Bill's I can never say this word. The word is peculiar, which means strange, but this is peculiarity. Peculiarity, which means strangeness. Bill's strangeness, Bill's peculiarity would vanish. When they say that people were hoping in vain that Bill's peculiarity, which means strangeness, would vanish, would disappear. So they were hoping that he would stop being crazy. But they're using a phrase here. They were hoping in vain. When you do something in vain, when you have verb plus in vain, that means you're doing it, you're wasting your energy, you're working really hard for something, but it doesn't materialize. It doesn't happen. So to hope in vain means they were hoping, but it won't happen. It's not going to happen. He's going to stay crazy. We're going to practice that phrase, hope in vain, in a few minutes. So they were hoping in vain that he would stop being crazy. It was a waste of effort. All right, let's see. As he drove off, one hand in front of his face to ward off sudden reflections. To ward something off means to keep it away from you. So as he was driving, he was doing this to avoid any kind of reflection of his face. They clucked their tongues in sympathy for poor Joan. This phrase, do you know what cluck is? Cluck is the sound of a chicken. And so clucking their tongues, they were going. I don't know what culture you're from, but in Western cultures, or at least English-speaking cultures, that means, oh, I feel so bad for you. I feel so horrible for you. They clucked their tongues. Wait, why did they do that? They clucked their tongues in sympathy for poor Joan. Okay. Marriage vows cannot cure insanity. Joan had married a madman. So here we have that word mad again, which doesn't mean angry. It means crazy. Joan married a crazy man. All right, now that we've finished with the paragraph, let's go back and practice some of the useful words and phrases that we found. And the first one is perplexed. Now let me find. Here we go. perplexed, which means confused. It's another word for confused. The difference between, there's not really a big difference. It's just that you probably would use perplexed in a situation where you see something very complicated, a very complicated problem, and you can't find the answer. You're so confused, you can't find the answer. The question is too complicated for you. That's usually when you would use perplex. And we'll look again at how they're using it in the story, but first let's practice using it on our own. So here's a situation. Mark is taking a very complicated math test in math class. And at some point he realized he's going to fail the test. He's failing because the problems are too confusing. So he's doing the test and he's saying, oh, no, I'm going to fail this test. There's no way. I can't answer these. He's still doing it, but he knows he's failing. Let's make a when Mark realized failing math test question. When did he realize that he was failing the math test? And the answer is when the problems were so complicated that he was confused. When the problems were so complicated that he was confused. Instead of saying all of this, let's use perplexed. The math problems perplexed him. That means they were so complicated that he was confused. The math problems perplexed him. He realized he was failing the math test when the math problems perplexed him. Now let's do something with this. The math problems perplexed him. Let's change this into a passive voice construction. He was perplexed. He was perplexed by. He was perplexed by the math problems. He realized he was failing the test when he realized he was, he realized he was failing the test when he realized he was failing the test when he was perplexed by the math problems. Okay, let's try another example using the word perplex. Here is another situation. John and Mary bought an interesting bookshelf from a popular furniture store, and they brought it home. They put it together. They had to put it together. They had to put the pieces together, assemble the pieces. I wrote this remembering like 25 years ago. I bought a bookshelf from IKEA. It was kind of a cool looking bookshelf that looked like it defied gravity. There was like a middle column, and then all of the shelves were in the middle. But it was very hard to read the instructions. It was very hard to follow the instructions. Maybe I'm stupid because it's just a bookshelf, right? But okay, so that's the situation that John and Mary have. They bought a bookshelf from maybe IKEA 25 years ago, and they had to assemble the pieces. So they're reading the instructions, but it's very confusing. Let's make a when realize make a mistake question. So they go to the store and they say, oh, that's a beautiful bookshelf. So they buy it and it's in a box and they think it's a wonderful purchase. But then when they take it out of the box, they say, oh, this was a big mistake. So let's make a when realize they make a mistake question. When did they realize? When did they realize they were? Or no, let's say made in the past. When did they realize they made? When did they realize they made a? When did they realize they made a mistake? When did they realize they made a mistake? And here's the answer. When they read the assembly instructions. And they were so complicated and so confusing. They were really confused. So let's use perplex in this situation. The instructions perplexed them. The instructions perplexed them. They realized they made a mistake when the instructions perplexed them. Now let's change this sentence. The instructions perplexed them. Let's use passive voice. They were perplexed. They were perplexed by the instructions. They were perplexed by the instructions. They realized they made a mistake when they were perplexed by the instructions. Okay, now let's go back to the story and see how they use the word perplex. The bride looked unhappy. The guests were the most perplexed people on earth. So imagine the situation. This is they're at a wedding. Everybody's supposed to be happy. That's what they think is going to happen. But the bride looks unhappy. The groom looks unhappy, and it's a very strange wedding. So the people, the guests, are trying to figure out what's going on here. This is weird, and that's why they're using perplexed here, because the guests are confused and they're trying to figure out what's happening. So now let's see. Let's move on to our next word that we found in this paragraph, which is absurd. Absurd. Now this word absurd means ridiculous or stupid or illogical. Oh wait, let me put it up here. Absurd. So this word absurd, it means ridiculous or stupid or illogical. It doesn't make any sense. Let's look at how we can use absurd in sentences. Here is a situation. Last night, Mark went to go see a movie. How can we ask Mark what you think of movie? We'll use the past tense. So how would you make a question? What you think of movie in the past? What did you think? What did you think of the movie? Now let's change this question, what did you think of the movie, into a reported speech question. Lisa asked Mark. The direct question is, what did you think? So how would you put that into reported speech? What did you think? If we're talking about Mark, who is a he. What he thought. Direct question, what did you think? Reported speech question, what he thought. Lisa asked Mark what he thought. Lisa asked Mark what he thought of the movie. Now, because we're using reported speech, and this original's idea is in the past, what did you think, what you thought, we should probably change that to past perfect. Lisa asked Mark what he had thought of the movie. And we can do a contraction, what he had thought, what he'd thought. Lisa asked Mark what he'd thought of the movie. Now, in spoken English, what he'd thought sounds like this. What he'd. Lisa asked Mark what he'd thought of the movie. So that goes from Lisa asked Mark what he had thought to Lisa asked Mark what he'd thought of the movie. Lisa asked Mark what he'd thought of the movie. She asked him what he'd thought of the movie. Now, here is a direct quote, okay, because Mark didn't like the movie. To him, the movie didn't make any sense. He couldn't follow the movie. It was illogical. It was stupid. It was ridiculous. And so what he says is, the movie is absurd. That's how you use absurd. It means stupid, ridiculous, illogical. It is absurd. Now let's change that phrase into reported speech. He said that it was. Listen to me say this in regular speech. that it was, that it was. He said that it was. He said that it was. He said that it was absurd. All right, let's try another example using the word absurd, which means ridiculous, illogical, stupid, doesn't make any sense. Recently, the company where Mary works changed all of their policies in an extreme way. Let's make a what you think of new company policies question. What do you think? What do you think of? What do you think of the company's new policies? What do you think of the company's new policies? John, now let's change this to reported speech. John asked Mary. He asked her. The direct question is, what do you think? So how will you change that to reported speech? What she thought. He asked her what she thought. What do you think? That's the question form. What she thought. That's the reported speech form. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so let's say I'm sorry, this is in the present. So, okay, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Let's change that to what she thinks. What she thinks, not what she thought. That's in the past. He asked her what she thinks. He asked her what she thinks. He asked her what she thinks of the new policy. Okay, but because it's reported speech in the original idea, that's simple present. We have to change that to the simple past. He asked her what she thought. He asked her what she thought of the new policies. And here's how she answered. I don't like the new policies. They're ridiculous. They're stupid. They don't make any sense. They're illogical. So instead of saying all of that, she can just say, they're absurd. What do you think of the new policies? They're absurd. Let's change that to reported speech. They're absurd. She said that they were absurd. He asked her what she thought of the new policies, and she said that they were absurd. All right, now let's go back to the story and see how they use the word absurd. As the bridal couple stepped into Bill's absurd-looking automobile. So remember, absurd means ridiculous, stupid, illogical, something like that. And so this is an absurd-looking automobile, an absurd-looking car. Why is it absurd? Well, because he removed the windows and the mirrors, because he's crazy. So they stepped into the absurd-looking automobile. All right, now let's move on to another phrase that we found in the first paragraph, which is interesting, and that is verb in vain. Verb in vain. And this phrase, to be in vain, means that you do an action, you perform an action, but you get no result from it. So if you talk in vain, that means you're talking to someone, but it doesn't result in something. So if you know someone who never listens, you say, well, talking to her, I'm talking to her in vain. It means I'm talking to her, but I know that won't change anything. She won't listen. If you work in vain, you've spent a lot of energy working and you've wasted your time because you get no result. Let's practice using this phrase, something in vain. Here is a situation. Mary wants to go to college and study art history, but her parents are worried that she wouldn't get a very good career with a degree in art history. They begged her not to study art history. So beg means please, please don't do it. They begged her, don't study art history. They begged her not to study art history. Let's make a what Mary decide to study question. What did she decide to study? What did she decide to study in college? And here's the answer, art history. she decided to study art history. And now we can say her parents begged, please, please don't do it. Her parents begged in vain. They spent all that energy saying, no, no, please don't do it. But it didn't work. It didn't do anything. Her parents begged in vain. Okay, all right, let's try another example using the phrase in vain. Here's another situation. Mark had a computer virus, and it erased all of the information on his computer. He tried to recover the information that he lost. Let's make a what happened when try to recover information question. What happened? What happened when? What happened when he tried? Listen to how this would sound in spoken English. What happened when he? What happened when he tried? What happened when he tried to recover the information? The answer is he failed. So when he tried to recover the information, he failed. When he tried to recover the information, he failed. And now we can say he tried in vain. He tried in vain. That means he worked really hard. He put in a lot of effort, but nothing happened. He tried in vain to recover the information. Let's go back to the story and see how they use the phrase in vain. As the bridal couple stepped into Bill's absurd-looking automobile, people knew that they were hoping in vain, people were hoping in vain that Bill's peculiarity would vanish. What that means is that he would stop being strange. People hoped in vain that he would stop acting crazy. So what does that mean if they say they were hoping in vain that he would stop acting crazy? It means he continued acting crazy, that hope had no impact. They hoped in vain that his peculiarity would vanish. All right, well, let's continue with this story now. Let me get this down here. So it seemed, as the couple drove along, Bill couldn't see what was behind him. So he almost got into an accident. When Joan flashed a compact mirror, he struck it angrily from her hand. Well, let me just show you what a compact mirror is, because I'm not really even sure. Well, you probably just don't know. Let me find a picture here. It's what a woman uses to apply makeup, especially on the go. This is so he doesn't like anything reflecting light. He doesn't like any mirrors. And she took out her compact to do something with her face, and he got angry and he pushed it from her hand. Might as well move this up. Okay. When they arrived at the house Bill had specially constructed for their married life, Jane was at her wit's end. Okay, now this is our next expression, to be at your wit's end. Let me bring that up here. That means very frustrated. So frustrated you can't tolerate the situation anymore. It means you're angry and you're tired. Let's practice using be at your wit's end in some sentences to see how we can use it. Here is a situation. John and Mary just had a new baby, and they were very happy, but there was one big problem. Every night, the baby would cry very loudly. Now, at first, they could tolerate it because they were so happy to have a new baby. But after 2 or 3 months, it became more difficult to tolerate it. It became more frustrating, and it even made them a little angry. It made them tired. Let's make a how John and Mary feel after 2 months question. How How did they? How did they feel? How did they feel after 2 months? And here's the answer. They were extremely frustrated. They were extremely tired. They were extremely angry. They had reached the limit. Okay, instead of saying all of this, we can say they were at their wits' end. They were at their wits' end after 2 months. That's how they felt. They were at their wits' end after 2 months. Let's try another example using this phrase, to be at your wits' end. Here is another situation. John has an old car. It is very unreliable. So unreliable, that means you can't depend on it. It's not a car that works very well. It always breaks, it always stops. It always has a problem, and it almost never works. But it's the only car that he has. But he's getting very tired and frustrated and angry dealing with this car every day. He's about to explode. Now let's make, here's a sentence. John is happy with his car. John is happy with his car. How will you ask a yes/no question with this sentence? John is happy with his car. Is John happy? Is John happy with his car? Is he happy with his car? How will you answer no to that question? No. No, he is not. No, he's not. No, he's not. No, he isn't. No, he isn't happy with his car. Now let's say he's very frustrated with his car. He's very angry with his car. He can't deal with his car anymore. He's tired of dealing with his car. He is at his wits' end with his car. He is at his, he's at his, he's at his, he's at his wits' end. He's at his wits' end with his car, with his car, with his car. He's at his wits' end with his car. No, he's not happy with his car. He's at his wits' end with his car. No, he is not happy with his car. He is at his wits' end with his car. No, he's not. No, he's not happy with his car. He's at his wits' end with his car. Okay, let's go back to the story and see how they use that phrase, at your wits' end, in the story. When they had arrived at the house Bill had specially constructed for their married life, now, of course, we know that Bill hates glass, anything that reflects or anything that gives a reflection. So we can imagine maybe the house doesn't have windows. So imagine when the new bride, the new wife, sees the house with no windows, and she's probably very angry. So when Jane saw the house, she was at her wits' end. She couldn't tolerate any more of his craziness. She was at his wits' end. There isn't one window, one glass, one reflecting surface in the whole house, she cried. I can't go on like this, Bill. Okay, and now we have go on as a phrasal verb. And what she's saying is, I can't continue like this. Go on is a phrasal verb, and it means continue. Something is horribly wrong with you. This obsession with mirrors and glass. What is it? Okay, now let's practice using go on, this phrasal verb. Where is it? Go on. Go on means continue here. Let's practice using it that way. Here is a situation. Lisa is working on a project for work. But she cannot continue her work, her project. She cannot finish the project until she receives more information. She has to wait for this information. She cannot progress because she has to wait for the information. So let's make a simple sentence, which is, she cannot continue the project. She cannot continue the project. Instead of saying continue, let's use go on, which means the same thing. She cannot continue. Okay, but now with go on, if you put an object, the project is an object, you have to use with. You have to use the preposition with. So she cannot go on with the project. So when you say continue, you don't have to use with. You can if you want, but you don't have to. So she can't continue the project. But when you say go on, you have to use the preposition with. She can't go on with the project. All right, so we've got she can't go on with the project. And let's make a why not question with that idea. So our sentence is she can't go on with the project. Make a why not. Why not go on? Why? Why can't she? Why can't she go on? Why can't she go on with the project? And here's the reason. She's waiting for more information. She can't go on with the project because she's waiting for more information. She can't continue. She can't progress with the project. She needs that information first. She can't go on with the project because she's waiting for more information. Let's try another example using the phrasal verb go on when it means continue. Mike is giving a presentation, but in the middle of his presentation, there are many interruptions because people were asking questions. So he has to stop. He has to stop the presentation and answer the questions. Let's make a what happened when interruptions stopped question. What happened when the interruptions stopped? What happened when the interruptions stopped? And the answer is he continued with the presentation. He continued with the presentation. When the interruptions stopped, he continued with the presentation. Now with the phrasal verb go on. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's use go on, and I'm getting confused. I'm getting tired already. We're only halfway through and I'm getting weird. All right. Let's start over here. Okay. So we have when the interruptions stopped, he continued with the presentation. What phrasal verb can you use instead of continue? Go on. Let's change that. Let's use go on instead of continue. And remember, though, that he continued with the presentation. That's in the past. So what is the past of go on? He went on. He went on with the presentation. When the interruptions stopped, he went on with the presentation. All right, now let's go back to the story and see how they use go on. So remember, they're driving up to the house, and they arrive at their new house, and she sees there are no windows in the house, no reflections of any kind. And she's at her wit's end. She cannot continue. Well, that's exactly what she can't continue. She says, I can't go on like this. I can't continue. You're crazy. I can't continue. I can't go on like this. We can't continue the relationship. Not if you're going to act crazy. Bill stared at the strange-looking box-like wooden panel building and sighed, and he nodded desperately. You think I'm mad too. You think I'm crazy too. I think I am myself. So Bill knows he's acting crazy. He says, I agree. I know. I'm crazy. I'm acting crazy. But you don't know the terrible jam I'm in. Now, to be in a jam means to be in a bad situation. And we're actually going to practice this phrase, to be in a jam, in a few minutes. When we finish the paragraph, we'll practice this expression, to be in a jam. I can't help myself. If I told you something, would you swear you'll never tell anyone else about it? They'd think I'm mad. They'd lock me up. So Bill wants to tell his new wife a big secret, and he's making her promise never to tell anyone because it's so crazy. He's afraid they would put him in a hospital and never let him leave. That's what he means by they'd lock me up. Actually, if you think somebody is crazy, one way to say it's rude, don't do it unless you're joking or you mean it. But if you want to call somebody crazy, you can say you need to be locked up. That means they need to put you in a hospital and lock you away because you're crazy, so you don't hurt anybody or yourself. That's pretty common. You need to be locked up. That means you're crazy. Okay, so Bill says, if I tell you a secret, do you promise not to tell anyone? Because it's so crazy. All right. So Joan nodded her head. She said, yes, okay, I agree. I won't tell anybody. And swore. Swearing means I promise, like official promise. I swear I won't tell anybody your secret. Bill told her what bothered him, and nobody would know. Nobody. Oh, wait. Let me reread that. Joan nodded her head and swore that if Bill told her what bothered him, nobody would know, meaning she won't tell anybody. Nobody. So Bill lit a cigarette and began speaking. Grim little lights dancing in his eyes. Perhaps nobody noticed a series of strange events and deaths a few months ago. A man in Spokane was found dead in front of his shaving mirror, cut to pieces by glass, his mirror shattered. That word shatter is what happens to glass if you break it. So if you throw something at glass, it will break into a million pieces. And this is what shatter means. So he's explaining that he read a news story where a man was found dead in front of his mirror. The mirror was shattered in a million pieces. All right, let's see. A woman in Miami similarly killed. So he's talking about a story he read about a woman in Miami, and the same thing happened to her. She was found dead in front of a mirror, in front of a full-length mirror while dressing. Maria Lopez, the movie queen, was killed when her glass ceiling tumbled down her lush boudoir. So she had a ceiling made of glass, and it shattered. It broke into a million pieces and fell on her, and now she's dead. But nobody connected these deaths until one day, while I was dressing, I became aware that I was doing one thing while my image in the mirror was doing another. All right, so he's explaining that he's moving, but when he looks in the mirror, the image is doing something different. Okay, let's see. Soon my image began to talk to me, sneeringly, ironically. So now at first, the first thing he notices is that when he moves, the image in the mirror does something different. And then the image started to talk to him. But the image does not sound very friendly. It doesn't sound very nice, because it says that the image talked to him sneeringly. And a sneer is a look of hate. So if the image is talking to him sneeringly, what are you doing? That's kind of sneering, and in a talking way. Sneer is really a look of hate. So first the mirror is doing different things. He notices it's moving in a different way. Then it starts talking to him in a very mean, hateful way, sneeringly. Okay, I thought my mind and my eyes were playing tricks on me when it came, a creature just like myself, but made entirely of glass, stepped out of the mirror. So then first it's making different movements, then it's talking to him in a very horrible way. And then it leaves the mirror, it steps out of the mirror. But this body looks just like him, except it's made from glass. It's the material, it's not skin, it's glass. All right. So the image steps out of the glass and it sits down behind Bill. And Bill stares at the mirror in horror. I could no longer see myself. My image had vanished, but not quite. So once the image leaves the mirror, Bill has no reflection in the mirror anymore because it's sitting behind him. He was sitting in a chair talking to me and explaining that human beings have but one image, and that image has a life and existence of its own. What did my image want of me? Simply this. So the image is saying, Bill's asking, what do you want from me? And now he's going to explain what the image wants. Since I was a leading technical expert on glass, more specifically, the hardening of glass into plate glass of incalculable strength, he wanted me to follow him through the mirror and into the glass world, to turn over my formulas to the glass people. This is a weird story. Okay, now we have the phrasal verb turn over, which in this context means like surrender. So if you know that word surrender, it's not like this, I surrender. It's surrender an object. And that is when you take an object and you give it to somebody in authority, like the police or the government, because they say, give it to me, give it to me. So this is what turn over means here. So these people, the glass people on the other side of the mirror, want Bill to turn over his formula to make the world's strongest glass. So that's not just give it to us. It's like give it to our government, give it to our authorities, give it to the police. Something like that. All right. So let's see. Where did we stop? Since man was on the brink of it, we're going to practice turnover in a minute. Okay, but let's finish the paragraph. Since man was on the brink of atomic war and millions might die, the glass images of these unfortunates would necessarily die with them. So they're saying that humanity is about to start a big war, an atomic war, like a nuclear war, the 50s version of a nuclear war. And the glass people understand that people in the physical world are about to have a very destructive war. And if that happens, the glass people will also be destroyed. So they're trying to find a way to save themselves. All right. But so now in this story, it says, on the brink of war, on the brink of atomic war, and millions might die, and the glass images of these unfortunate would necessarily die with them. Sorry, I've got everything written out, but I've got this bad habit of talking and not reading, and then I lose my place and I have to find it again. I'm sorry. Okay, so these glass people want the formula for non-shatterable glass so that they can become stronger, so that they can't be destroyed. And remember, shatter is what happens to glass when it breaks. It breaks into a million pieces, and this is shattered glass. Bodies impervious to bullets and blows. A blow is like a hit. So the bodies are impervious. Impervious means you can't penetrate it. So, if you shoot a gun and the gun hits you, it doesn't go. It's like Superman. It bounces off of you. That means, so impervious to bullets means bullets can't enter you. And blow means hit. So impervious to blows. They don't feel it. It doesn't hurt them. I listened to my glass alter ego in horror. And then I picked up a chair, and before my image... Oh, well, we skipped something because I'm talking and not reading. But the image explains, we want this formula so that we can become strong and destroy humanity before they start this big war. And that's the thing that freaked Bill out, because he said, oh, they're going to kill us all. So he's really scared. I listened to my alter ego in horror, and then I picked up a chair, and before my image could stop me, I shattered him to bits with one blow. So here we have that word shatter again. That's what happens when you break glass. It breaks into a million pieces. I shattered him with one blow, with one hit, into a million pieces. All right. So he destroyed his image from the mirror. Now let's practice a couple of words or a couple of phrases that we talked about. And the first one is to be in a jam. So let me find that here. Here we are. To be in a jam. All right, here's the situation. Mary had a big problem. She had to pay her rent, but she didn't have enough money. What is another way to say that someone has a big, serious problem? To be in a jam. Mary is in a jam. That's just another way of saying she has a big, serious problem. Mary is in a jam with money. Now let's make a what happened when question. What happened when? What happened when she was in a? What happened when she was in a jam? What happened when she was in a? What happened when she was in a jam? What happened when she was in a jam with money? And here's the answer. She called Mike and asked for a loan. When she was in a jam, she called Mike and asked for a loan. Now here's another sentence. Mike helped her when she was in a jam. When she was in a jam. Mike helped her when she was in a jam. Let's make a yes-no question with that sentence. Did Mike, did he help her? Did he help her? Did he help her when she was in a? Did he help her when she was in a jam? Did he help her when she was in a jam? Let's answer no. No. No, he didn't. No, he didn't help her. No, he didn't help her. No, he didn't help her when she was in a jam. When she was in a jam. No, he didn't help her when she was in a jam. No, he didn't help her when she was in a jam. And then now let's say, but John helped her. John helped her when she was in a. John helped her when she was in a jam. Mike didn't help her when she was in a jam, but John helped her when she was in a jam. Okay, let's try another situation, practicing to be in a jam. Lucy was planning a party for 10 people. But on the day of the party, 50 people came, 50. She was planning a party for 10, but 50 people came. And now Lucy's in big trouble. She doesn't have enough food or drinks for 50 people. How can we say Lucy has a serious problem? She has a big problem. Lucy is in a jam. Lucy is in a. Lucy's in a. Lucy's in a jam. Lucy's in a jam. She's in a jam. She's in a jam. Let's make a what happened when question. What happened when? What happened when she? What happened when she was in a? What happened when she was in a? What happened when she was in a jam? What happened when she was in a jam? Okay, here's the answer. She called a caterer for an emergency delivery. Now, a caterer is kind of like a private restaurant. It's not a place where you can go and sit down and eat. They make food, but they only make it for parties or for weddings or something like that. And then they bring the food. That's what a caterer is. So they make food and they deliver it, but it's not a restaurant. So when Lucy was in a jam, she called a caterer for an emergency delivery. When she was in a jam, when she was in a jam, she called a caterer for an emergency delivery. Okay, now here's a sentence. The caterer helped her out of her jam. The caterer helped her out of her jam. That's like rescue her. The caterer helped her out of her jam. The caterer rescued her from her problem. How will you make a basic yes-no question with that sentence? Did the caterer help her out? Help her out? Help her out of her? Help her out of her? Did the caterer help her out of her jam? Did the caterer help her out of her jam? Did the caterer help her out of her jam? Let's answer no, but restaurant yes. No, the caterer didn't. No, the caterer didn't help her. No, the caterer didn't help her. No, the caterer didn't help her out. No, the caterer didn't help her out of her jam. No, the caterer didn't help her out of her jam, but the restaurant helped her out. Helped her out. Helped her out. Helped her out of her. Helped her out of her jam. The restaurant helped her out of her jam. The caterer didn't help her out of her jam, but the restaurant helped her out of her jam. All right, let's go back to the story and see how the expression to be in a jam is used. So Bill, the husband, says, I know, you think I'm crazy. I think I'm crazy too. And then he says, you don't understand the terrible jam I'm in. So that means you don't understand the serious problem that I have. I'm in a serious situation here. You don't understand the terrible jam I'm in. All right, now another phrasal verb that was used in this paragraph is turn over. And here, turn over means, like most phrasal verbs, turn over can mean several different things. So when I'm telling you that this is the meaning of turn over, it just is in this context, because it does mean other things in different situations, okay? But turn over is like when you give something, you surrender something. Surrender is like, I give up. But when you turn over something, that's because somebody like the police or the government or somebody with authority, somebody in charge, wants something from you, and you give it to them. You say, here, take it. Let's see how we use turn over in this kind of situation. All right, so here's the situation. The police discovered that John was in possession of an illegal gun. So the police think that John has an illegal gun. And the police said, give us the gun. They demanded the gun from John. And this is what I mean by surrender. It's not, I surrender. It's, here, sorry. That's what I mean by surrender. Okay, so how do you think the police would say, give us your gun? What they probably would say is, turn over your gun. Turn over your gun. That means give it to us. We're the police. Give it to us. So let's make a sentence. The police demanded that John turn over the gun. The police demanded that John turn over the gun. The police demanded that John say, here, sorry. Okay, so this is a separable phrasal verb. So let's take the object and put it inside the verb. The police demanded that John turn the gun over. The police demanded that John turn the gun over. Now, let's make a what happened question with that sentence. Our sentence is, the police demanded that John turn the gun over. How will you make a what happened when question with that sentence? What happened? What happened when? What happened when the police demanded? What happened when the police demanded that John? What happened when the police demanded that John turn the gun over? And here's the answer. He showed the police, he showed them his permit, his license. He said, it's not illegal. I have permission. I can have this gun. All right, so when the police demanded that John turn his gun over, he showed them his permit. That's a pretty complicated sentence, actually. When the police demanded that John turn the gun over, he showed them his permit. He showed them his. He showed them his. He showed him. He showed him his. He showed him his permit. When the police demanded that John turn the gun over, he showed him his permit. He showed them. He showed him. He showed them his. He showed him his. He showed him his permit. When the police demanded that John turn the gun over, he showed him his permit. So let's make a basic yes-no question with John turned the gun over. John turned the gun over. How would you make a basic yes-no question with John turned the gun over? Did he? Did he turn? Did he turn the gun over? Did he? Did he turn the gun over? How will you answer no? No, he didn't. No, he didn't turn over. No, he didn't turn over the gun. No, he didn't turn the gun over. Let's make a why not question. Why? Why didn't he? Why didn't he? Why didn't he turn the gun over? Why didn't he turn the gun over? And the reason is he had a permit. He had a permit. He had a permit. He had a permit. He didn't turn the gun over because he had a permit. He didn't turn the gun over because he had a permit. He didn't turn the gun over because he had a permit. Let's try another example using turn over when it means surrender an object. Here. Lucy quit her job. That's our situation. And she worked at a very high security office. She had a special identification badge given to her when she started working there, but now she was quitting. And it was very important for her to return her special identification card to the correct person. How can we say that Lucy surrendered her identification in an official way? She gave it to someone in authority. Here's my badge. She turned over her identification. Now, because this is a separable phrasal verb, we can put the object inside the verb. She turned her identification over. Now, let's make a who to question. Who to? So this is who, ... to. Who did she? Who did she turn? Who did she turn her identification? Who did she turn her identification over to? Who did she turn her identification over to? Who did she turn her? Who did she turn her? Who did she turn her identification over to? To. That's the to at the end. Okay, who did she turn her identification over to? Okay, we can do it another way. That's the most typical way. But you could be very proper and you could say, to whom? To whom? How would you make that question with whom? To whom? To whom did she? To whom did she turn? To whom did she turn her identification? To whom did she turn her identification over? To whom did she turn her identification over? Now, let's answer the human resources manager. She turned her identification over to. She turned her identification over to the human resources manager. Okay, now let's make a yes-no question with that sentence. Did she? Did she turn her? Did she turn her? Did she turn her identification over? Did she turn her identification over to the human resources manager? Okay, let's say human resources manager, no. Head of security, yes. No, she didn't turn. No, she didn't turn her identification over. No, she didn't turn her identification over to the human resources manager. No, she didn't turn her identification over to the human resources manager. She turned her identification over to the head of security. Oh, wow. That's pretty long. Thank you for staying for that one. That's a hard one. Okay, let's go back to the story and see how they use turnover. Now, we learned that Bill is a glass expert and he has a formula to create unshatterable glass. Remember, shatter is what happens to glass if it breaks. It breaks into 1 million little pieces. So, Bill is a glass expert and he has a formula for unshatterable glass. You cannot break this glass. And so the glass people on the other side of the mirror want this formula. And they want him to turn the formula over. They want him to turn it over, which doesn't mean which implies not to just any person, but to special people, people in charge, maybe somebody in the government, maybe the president of the glass people or something, or the police, the chief of police of the glass people. All right. And we've got another phrase here, which is to be on the brink of something. And this is another phrase that is used in this paragraph. And to be on the brink of something means you're very close to something happening, something important, something big. And this phrase, to be on the brink, is very frequently used with the word war. So if you're reading a newspaper, and there's a war that's very, very close to starting, you will see that phrase, to be on the brink of war. Let's use it in some other ways, but that's a very common way to see it. Here is a situation. Mary's cat was playing in the streets, and unfortunately a car hit the cat, and the cat was very seriously hurt. Mary took the cat to a doctor, an animal doctor. An animal doctor is called a veterinarian. So she took the cat to a veterinarian. Now here is a direct question that she asked the vet. We'll just say vet. That's what people usually call a veterinarian, a vet. So Mary asked the vet directly, "Is my cat almost dead? Is my cat almost dying, close to dying?" Now, what is a phrase that means very close to a big event? On the brink of. Dying is a pretty serious and big event. On the brink of dying. Is my cat on the brink of dying? Let's change this to reported speech, a reported speech question. This is a yes-no question. She asked the vet. She asked the vet if. She asked the vet if her cat. She asked the vet if her cat was on the brink. She asked the vet if her cat was on the brink of dying. She asked the vet if her cat was on the brink of dying. How would you answer no to this question? So imagine you're the vet. How will you answer that question? Is my cat on the brink of dying? No. No, your cat. No, your cat isn't. No, your cat's not. No, your cat's not on the brink of dying. Now, let's change this to reported speech. The vet told Mary. The vet told her. The vet told her. The vet told her that the cat wasn't. The vet told her that the cat wasn't on the brink. The vet told her that the cat wasn't on the brink of dying. Mary asked the vet if her cat was on the brink of dying, and the vet told her that the cat wasn't on the brink of dying. Okay, let's try another example using on the brink of, which means very close to something big, something important happening. John is playing a very difficult video game, and he is on level 6. It is extremely difficult to get to level 7. He has been trying to get to level 7 for a week, he believes that he is almost to level 7, which for him is very significant and very important. We can use on the brink of here, meaning very close to something important. Let's say getting to level 7. He is on the brink of. He's on the brink of getting. He's on the brink of getting to level 7. He's on the brink of getting to level 7. How would you make a basic yes-no question with that sentence? He is on the brink of. Is he? Is he? Is he on the brink of? Is he on the brink of getting? Is he on the brink of getting to level 7? Now let's change it to reported speech. Mike asked him. Mike asked him whether. Mike asked him whether he was. Mike asked him whether he was on the brink. Mike asked him whether he was on the brink of getting. Mike asked him if he was on the brink of getting to level 7. Let's answer no. No, he isn't. No, he isn't on the brink of. No, he isn't on the brink of getting to level 7. Can you change that to reported speech? Let's say he said that. He said that he said that he wasn't. He said that he wasn't. He said that he wasn't on the brink of. He said that he wasn't on the brink of getting to level 7. All right, let's go back to the story and see how they use this phrase, to be on the brink of something. In the story, the image came out from the mirror and explains that because humanity is on the brink of war, of atomic war, of nuclear war, it needs this special formula from Bill. Because the people who live inside the mirror are afraid that humanity will destroy the world. So they want to become indestructible. And that time is very close, because he says they are on the brink of war, which means it's very close. It's almost happening. Then I picked up a chair, and before my image could stop me, I shattered him into bits with one blow. The image disintegrated in a shower of glass splinters. Suddenly, a swarm of glass images, all resembling human beings, leaped out of my glass mirror and laid hold of me. So when he destroyed his glass image, the other images inside the mirror became angry, and they jumped out, and they grabbed him, and they started beating him. I was stunned. That means I was shocked. First with shock, and then with the viciousness of their blows. So first he was shocked because these things came out of the mirror and attacked him, but also he was shocked because they were very violent, very cruel to him. I sank into unconsciousness. I felt myself being dragged through the mirror. So he was losing consciousness. He was like going to sleep almost, because they were beating him, but they could feel that he was being pulled. They were pulling him into the mirror. So he was going into the glass world. All right. When I woke up, I was in the presence of a hard, vicious man who threatened me with death unless I surrendered my glass hardening formulas to them. So they said, if you don't give us the formula, we will kill you. These were glass men living in glass houses, glass streets, driving glass vehicles, a civilization exactly like ours, except that everything was a reflection made of glass. They had glass hearts, and their thinking was viciously transparent too. To make my long story short, I tricked them into thinking I was preparing something in a laboratory, a chemical bath, which would harden their glass bodies. So he says, okay, I'll give you the formula. But instead of making the formula, it seems like he's going to make something that will hurt them. Let's see. I stepped aside, and the more eager glass people dashed. They ran into the bath and were cracked to death in the hot liquid. So he made this bath, this chemical bath, and he said, well, if you go into this chemical bath and cover yourselves, you'll be indestructible. So some of them got very excited and they jumped in immediately. But when that happened, they were destroyed. Then I put up a whale of a battle, smashing the glass cohorts who sought to capture me. I seized hold of their dictator and threatened to kill him unless he allowed me to return to my world. So they were very angry with him, of course, but a fight happened, and somehow he was able to grab the leader and said, "Okay, let me free, or I kill him." He also made them promise never to capture another glass expert to do their horrible bidding. So he made them promise that they would never try to find another glass expert to make them indestructible. This is such a stupid story. Okay, let's see. The tyrant gave in, but warned me that sooner or later they would reclaim me the second I looked at myself in the mirror again. So the leader said, okay, fine, you can go back to your world. We won't try to capture any more glass experts. But if you ever look into a mirror again, we will get you. Since my own image was dead, that's what explains the mysterious deaths around the country. When an image accidentally perished in the glass world, its human counterpart died the second it confronted a reflecting surface. This was to be my fate. So he's saying these deaths that he talked about earlier, where these people died in front of mirrors, he's explaining the reason why is because in the glass world, their glass image died. And so the next time they looked into a mirror or saw their reflection, they would also die. And he's saying now that will happen to me because I killed my glass image. Somehow, sometime soon, I too will look into the mirror, but instead of dying like the others, I would be recaptured. I got through the mirror. So he's saying he would be different. He wouldn't be killed, but they would take him back into their world. I got through the mirror, smashed what was left of it, holding my hand over my eyes not to see my image. So once he came through to the other side, he covered his eyes and he broke the mirror. And I've been avoiding glass, mirrors, chrome, anything that would give back my image and deliver me into the hands of the glass world. So since that moment, he stays away from anything that can show his reflection. Bill paused breathlessly and turned pleading. Remember, pleading means please. So why is he pleading to his wife? He's telling her this crazy story, and now he's finished. So he looks at his wife like, don't think I'm crazy. That's the pleading part. He turns to his wife pleading. What is he saying please for? He's saying, please don't think I'm crazy. Oh, let's see. He took her hands in his, And you can see the terrifying spot I'm in, Joan. That means you can see this horrible position, this horrible situation I have. That's why I can't look into mirrors. I can't look into a mirror or a window, not because I'm crazy, because if I don't avoid reflecting surfaces, I will be forced to do their evil bidding. They will march out of every mirror and window in the world and try to conquer it. Maybe we can defeat them, but think of the bloodbath the world would have to endure in order to destroy these glass hordes. With a shudder, this is a shudder. Ooh, that's a shudder. With a shudder, Joan removed her hands from his. "You're mad," she whispered. Mad as any lunatic in the insane asylum. That's where they used to put crazy people. Insane asylum. Now it's a mental hospital. Your work with glass has twisted your brain. So obviously, his new wife does not believe him and thinks that she's crazy. They warned me against you. Everybody. But did I listen? With a choked sob, she ran out of the room. So she started crying and she ran out of the room. Bill started after her. He was chasing her. She too thinks I'm crazy, he said to himself. They all think I'm crazy. My housekeeper, my valet, my friends, my employer, nobody believes my story. Wow, he must, being a glass expert must pay pretty well because he's got a housekeeper and a valet. Pretty nice. They'll put me in a lunatic asylum. That's a mental hospital. In a padded cell. Now, let me just show you what a picture of a padded cell is, because I think it's kind of important to the story, which is ending in a few minutes. I don't know if these really actually exist. You always see them in movies. It's where they put crazy people so they don't hurt themselves. But I'm not really sure if that's a real thing, or if it's just something that you see in movies. But that is a padded cell. Pad. Oh, let's just look at a picture of a pad for a moment. Oh, well, this is a kind of. Let me do something different here. Padding. What is this? Padding just means something soft. It's hard to find pictures. Google really isn't good at delivering pictures anymore. They either deliver something commercial with the same name or something you probably don't want. But padding just means something soft. Okay, in my opinion. I mean, maybe you have a different experience with Google. But in my opinion, when I try to look for pictures now, I either get commercial brand names or names of movies for everything that I'm looking for, or I get something that has nothing to do with what I want. Okay, but a padded cell, that's like the stereotypical place you put a crazy person. Okay, so he says, they'll put me in a padded cell. So Bill was chasing after his wife, and then he stopped. A look of wonder crept into his eyes, because he says, oh, they'll put me in a padded cell. And he says, wait a minute, a padded cell? That was it. He covered his eyes carefully and staggered into the street. Staggering is walking like this. Like maybe if you're very drunk, that's staggering. When you're walking in a very strange way, like you don't have balance. So he covered his eyes and he staggered into the street, down the road like a blind man. When the police found Bill Cranford, Bill was smiling like an idiot. Nobody but Bill knew why he smiled. At least there are no mirrors in a padded cell. So finally he found the solution to his problem. If they put me in a mental hospital in a padded cell, I don't have to worry about seeing my reflection anymore. So that's the end of the story. Okay. World of Glass. All right. Well, thank you for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time with another short story and some exercises to practice English. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.